Good morning. I'm going to try to do a little video to show how I put one of the pages of this little fabric book together. And this is the page that I'm going to put together. The background is just a watercolor wash. I've added a tab of antique fabric, and this is a fabric collage that I want to use as a pocket here on this side. And this will be a dangly term that goes somewhere on the page here. So first step, we're going to make a pocket out of this little fabric collage. This is all antique French linen, most of which I got from Claudia, my favorite antique textile person. He does fabulous little bundles. So I'm going to take this pocket. I want it to go this way and things to be put in here. So I need pocket paper on the other three sides. So I'm going to use these little folded pieces of paper. These are about 1.5 inches wide. And then I just cut them to the length that I needed to make these little pocket pieces. And one side will attach to the fabric, and I'm going to use some score tape to attach it to the fabric. And then the other part of this will attach to the paper. And for that, I'm going to glue it on. So the first step is to just add a piece of score tape to one half of each of these. This is the tape that I've always used for anything like putting books together, or if I'm using a tape adhesive, I use this type because it is just much stronger than any other type of tape that I've tried. But for those of you, if you might not have a way of getting this tape, I'm sure there are other options, but I just find that it's better than fabric glue. It's not, when it's paper on paper, it holds really well. And I think on fabric, it holds certainly well enough for the purpose that I'm using it for. But then you just, after you burnish it down, you just peel this off, and then I can place it on the fabric where I want the pocket to be. So I'm just going to put it in the middle of the side, like that. And then again, I'm going to burnish it down just to make sure that it's stuck down really well. And I'm just using scrap paper for these little hinges. This is just something I was using for another purpose, and then I wound up cutting a new piece because I needed it a different size, so it was left over. I'm sure everybody has little scraps like this in their pile of leftovers. But this is, I think it's old Tim Holtz paper. It's a really nice strong paper that you can easily fold, and you don't get that sort of creased area when you fold it. Some brands of paper are not as strong as this. Okay, so that's one side down. Oops. Then I'm going to do the other side. See the back of all my stitching. There we go. So now I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to each side. I always seem to use toothpicks when I glue things just to make sure that I've got it applied in the right amount so that I don't have any glue coming out the edges. I really like this particular glue because it gives you a little bit of time. I don't like the fast grab glues because I just work too slowly to be able to use that. I usually do that and then I put this down like that and then I glue this last side. And it makes a really nice pocket. I've done this for every one of the pocket pages that I have in this journal. And I think it's a really good mechanism for attaching fabric to paper and turning it into something you can use as a pocket. Okay, so there we go. Now the next step is to go back to our book and, oops, wrong page. This page. Always a challenge when you have something that's not completely square that you're trying to fit into a square spot. And I would also like to just sort of go inside the pocket and make sure that the inside part is where I want it to be. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Happy with that. Okay, and now the next step is to decide what kinds of things I want to put in to these pockets. I have all sorts of little pieces that I've made, and I think tags of about this size will work. I just want to see what it looks like with pockets with tags in the pockets before I decide where my embellishments are going to go. Let's just try a couple of smaller tags here. This will work. Something like that is what I want in the end. It might be different tags, but that's about what I want. And so I have this charm. I'm not sure if you can see this very well because it's so slanted. So let me just pull it up like this and see if you can see that. I hope so. Anyway, the next step is going to be to add a charm like this, maybe, or like this. I don't want it to be too close to the binding of the book. I often put them over here. And then I was thinking maybe a button here. So I'm going to pull the tags out and then work on those last embellishments. I'm going to do this like right there. So I'm going to flip this around. Hopefully I'll keep it in frame. And then I'm just going to punch a hole. I'm going to add my button right here. I'm just using my awl to poke some holes through the paper. Usually when I'm doing a project like this, I'll start off with my pages flat before I've sewn them into my binding. And then at some point, I get to the point where I feel like I really need to be seeing how the pages look back to back. And so then I will stitch the signatures together, and then the final pages will be a little bit awkward to work with like this. I probably should have shown building a page before. I always sew my old buttons into my project. I never ever use glue on old buttons. It's a rule for me. Not that I mind what other people do, but I think that when you're using old materials, it really only makes sense to respect them and treat them well so that they maintain their value. So that button is sewn in. Okay, I think that's good. I'm happy with that. And I always just leave my backs of my pages like this with little strings so that you can kind of see the history. And when I do my flip throughs, I usually close these pieces together so it looks like one page, but I don't glue them together because this makes for a perfect place to do journaling or add some paper collage, something that's flat. And that's it. Easy as pie. There's my finished page. Thanks for taking a look.